which is super unfortunate. Do you want to try talking?
Yeah, hello. Can you guys hear me? Am
Um,
I audible? Can anybody hear me?
oh, I think when I restart the stream, something does happen. Let me,
Okay, okay,
if you don't mind, I'm gonna quickly ping the folks on the call.
okay.
Um, but of course, hmm. Okay, I think.
Can anybody hear me?
Can folks hear us? That is odd. Do you mind if you give me 1 second? I'm gonna just quickly hold on. I think people are navigating back here. So, hopefully that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, guys. This never happens. But I'm really glad you got here, guys. I will tell folks from the other live session to navigate
Okay,
over.
okay. Um, Maria, welcome. Can you hear me?
Welcome, guys. I'm gonna quickly. Um,
All right,
oh,
I
we're
really
getting people
hope.
to come back.
Perfect, perfect.
Yay!
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thanks for migrating over. We do appreciate you guys doing that. Um, I will get back to. Hey guys, thanks for joining. You know what? I know in the recorded session, so Diego, um, we're gonna probably try to publicize this recorded video after the session. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you missed the beginning, don't worry about it. We'll record it and we'll post it live for you guys. I really do apologize in advance. The audio just somehow didn't work. So thank you guys for being patient. But the question I asked Diego, I guess before, for folks who are just joining in, is tell me about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell me a bit about your background, literal
Yeah,
background.
absolutely, absolutely. Happy to do so, and welcome everyone. If you are having some problems with the audio, let us know. But hopefully everything's fixed now. So, welcome everyone. My name is Diego Granados, and I'm a product manager at Microsoft, working on AI and machine learning. A little bit about myself. So, I'm originally from Mexico. Mexico City is home for me. That's where I grew up. I studied electric engineering, but I actually never worked in engineering. I never worked in software development or anything like that. I actually spent 5 years working as a business intelligence consultant. Really interesting because it was a mix of the consulting side of the job, which is talking to customers, understanding problems, data requirements, so on and so forth, and at the same time, data, but navigating data and working with other engineers for that. Super interesting, but after 5 years, I wanted to do something different. And so, after trying to think about what's my next step, and notice that at this point, I didn't know anything about product management, I realized that coming from an engineering background, plus 5 years in consulting, my business skills were definitely not the best. So I decided to take the next step and do an MBA. And that's when I decided to come to the US, study my MBA at Duke. And that's why you see the basketball behind me is signed by Coach Caven. If there's any fans out there of basketball, I'm not a fan of basketball, but it was a gift that I got from the school for all the work that I did on the tech club at the end of my MBA. So it's a nice token that I really enjoy. That my MBA, that's when I discovered product management. 2 years after that, I spent those in California working for Cisco. And 2 years after that, now I find myself once again as a PM at Microsoft. And super quick behind me, you'll find a few things that I like from Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars fan, at least from movie number 7 all the way back. Not such a big fan of the new things. And then a few things like my diploma, a token from my wife, a few books of some of my favorite games like Zelda, and a book of Mexican cuisine because that's the thing that I miss the most about my country. The basketball that I mentioned, and board games because I'm crazy about board games. So
Oh,
this is kind of
Betrayal
me
of the
in a
House on
nutshell.
the Hill?
Yes, that's one of
Oh,
my favorite ones.
oh, it's a trippy one. It's a
Oh,
trippy one.
and even behind me, I also have something hidden, but it's more about video games.
Ooh, I'm not a video game fan. I do like board games though, especially communal board games where we get to, work together. So I do like the board game there. For folks who are just navigating in, thank you guys for being so patient with us. Diego just introduced himself. By the way, remember to follow Diego. His LinkedIn is his YouTube channel is in the description, and so is Disclosed LinkedIn. What we do within Disclose is we bring on hiring managers or folks critical within the hiring process into a live discussion to talk through resumes, to talk through candidacy, what makes a candidate successful, going through the interview process. Today, we're specifically focused on resumes. And you'll see in the chat that there's a form for folks who want to branch out of just resumes. If you're interested in mock sessions, mock interview sessions, career guidance, there's a link, there's a form in the chat. So be sure to navigate to YouTube Live and click on that Google Forms, and we'll work things out. But thank you for the introductions, Diego. So I'm going to I think let's get started. We have most of the viewers back into the live session. So what we'll do is I'm going to talk through the introductions, disclaimers, and then I have a couple of questions for you, Diego, specifically how you're related to the hiring process and your experiences around the hiring process from the hiring end. So the other end where job seekers are trying to not master, but trying to understand.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then we're going to go into the meat of today's session. So Diego here will screen share three anonymized resumes, and we're gonna talk through them together. Finally, he's gonna talk through whether or not this particular resume individually is a good resume to apply for management positions at FANG companies. So lively discussion, guys. Really excited for today's topic. So let's get started. I'm going to get started with the mandated disclaimers. So one of the things that I want to make sure we all understand are three things. Advice is endorsed by the individual and not the company that Diego represents. So it's represented. So his advice is based off of his experience and not necessarily the covenant from Microsoft. The second thing is that this is a safe space for learning. We don't tolerate any personal attacks. All this information that we're going to share today is to help you better through the hiring process or through the job seeking process. Lastly, I want to it's not necessarily a disclaimer, but I want to tell you guys why Diego has been chosen. So not only has he been very active helping others through the job seeking process, but he really dissects the interview, dissects the resumes, dissects the hiring process into tangible steps for folks who are trying to pivot into product management. And I could tell from Diego that he's a very open and honest person. So he'll be sharing real advice for our users to help them through the roadblocks they're seeing with the hiring process. Okay, enough from me. We're here to watch Diego. So Diego, how are you involved with the hiring process?
Yeah, so I was part of a group when I was at Cisco, part of a group that we would screen resumes, right? So this myth about we have this powerful AI screening resumes, that doesn't make sense, right? It's at the end of the time, at the end of the process. And I've interviewed even a former recruiter at Google, and I've interviewed a recruiter at AWS, and we all read resumes. So there's a person behind all of the resumes reading them. So I was part of that group that we would select from a group of resumes, hundreds of resumes, a group that will pass on to the interview. Then I will be part of the interview group for a second round. So after they go through an initial phone screen, we will bring them on site, and I was part of that group that we will be interviewing. At Microsoft, I don't do the screening of the resumes, but I am part of that second round or on-site type of interview, where after they bring all the interviewees into Microsoft, I'm part of this group that goes through the 4 or 5 rounds of interviews.
Ooh, 4 or 5 rounds. That sounds very intense.
It's a very tough day, but in the end, it's super fun because you get to meet a lot of people. It's not always just product managers. It's a combination of PMs plus engineers plus so many others. So in the end, it's a very exhausting day, but it's super fun.
Oh, Oh, nice. And you get to make the connections too. So,
Absolutely.
really great. Thank you for sharing with us how you're involved with the hiring process. It seems like you've had the resume screening experience from
Mhm.
Cisco and then interviewing experience from Microsoft. So, without further ado, um, let's screen share the resumes.
All right, awesome. So what I'm going to do today is I'm gonna start sharing here my screen. Let me know, please, when you can see it.
We're good.
All right, perfect. Cool. So let's do one thing. I'm going to start talking about the things that I look at. And by the way, I have not read anything about these resumes, but I'm going to start talking about as if I were reading them to see, if they could be a good candidate to bring them for an interview. And again, this is based on my experience. But anyway, so the first thing that I typically do is when I get a resume, the first thing that I go and look at is think about, okay, how many pages is this? We're talking about one page. Okay, perfect. That just gives me an idea without having to look at dates if this person has more than 10 years of experience or less than 10 years of experience. Because regardless sometimes about the job posting that companies publish, you have all types of candidates applying to it. So one page typically, or hopefully if you have less than 10 years of experience, it's just one single page. I look a little bit of the format. I don't pay too much attention to it. Honestly, if this resume had colors or images or whatever, I actually don't care about it. What I care about is that it's very easy to read, that it's clean, that it's simple, because in the end, I don't care about the colors. I care about the content. And let's look at this resume. And by the way, feel free to stop me at any time with any questions or comments. But let's go and take a deeper look into this resume.
Ooh, actually, before
Yeah.
we jump into this resume, what are the top three things you look for in an ideal case?
Yeah. So, and this is thinking from the product management
Yes.
perspective, right? If I were evaluating this resume for a PM role, so one is that I look, and actually, let me say, after the very basic things like it's clean, it's a nice format, and nice doesn't mean it has colors, means I can read it easily because I only have 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and recruiters have less than that. After we pass all of that, the things that I look for is number one, I want to see what this person accomplished. Number two, I want to see how their skills, if they're not a PM yet, how their skills transfer into a PM job. And then number three is what else do they bring to the table? Because especially in product management, there's a misconception that you have to be an engineer or have a technical background to become a PM, and that's not true. So, what else can they bring to the table? What's unique to them that I can say confidently, oh, this is going to be super useful to the team because of X, Y, and Z. Those would be the top three things. Again, moving outside of format and what's not.
Cool. Thank you, Diego. That was very insightful.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that in mind, let's go
Yep.
into this resume. So we've got the education piece. What I'm looking for here is I want to look for, okay, is this person interested in technology, right? And what does education has to do with that? It has absolutely nothing to do with the degree. But for example, let's see, this person did a master's in management. All right, high potential award. What this is telling me is that this person, it's somebody who's working really hard towards getting their goals, elite member of IE Consulting Club. Okay, this is interesting, but we're thinking about product management, so I don't see the tech club. And if I keep reading, I see coursework in data and technology applications. So I see big data, building on online businesses. Okay, so this is typical, very applicable to masters in management. I would have loved to see a little bit more on the tech club, right? Because even though we're talking about masters in management with digital business specialization. If they're applying to a tech company, it would be good to know that they are more interested in tech and not just consulting. But it's still nothing that I would say that would scare me away from this applicant. Just a nice thing to have. MIT, and then this person is an MBA early admissions program. Very interesting. Doesn't really add too much to me, other than saying this is awesome and congratulations to this person. But yeah, other than that, there's really nothing here that other than this is a very ambitious person. I personally always recommend to think of an MBA after a few years of experience, but if they want to do it sooner, that's great too. Then again, MIT, we've got biology, entrepreneurship, and innovation, concentration in German. One of 36 students selected for leadership. Okay, so this person has definitely some leadership skills that they probably can recommend a lot. Sorry, that can we can see these things shine through the rest of the resume. And that's what I'm eager to find out. But that's it. That's it from the education. I'm really not looking for something specific or red flags. I'm looking more for, okay, what's their connection into tech and product management. Then we go into the skills, and sometimes the skills are in this stage. Sometimes they have it at the bottom. The I would say the worst thing that you can do in the skills is things like this: competitor analysis, collaboration, digital business strategy, digital transformation. All of these are buzzwords, and they tell me absolutely nothing. Leadership. Anybody can write leadership, but can you actually exemplify leadership? Can you actually exemplify stakeholder alignment? But I know why this person did this, and this is because they fear the ATS, and they fear that they're going to be filtered out if they actually don't add these keywords, and that's called keyword stuffing. It's honestly, it's a cheap trick that we applicants think that we're going to trick the ATS. But really, what's going to happen is that the recruiter, the hiring manager, is going to read this and completely ignore the skills, or at least many. Oops, sorry about that. There was a clickable link. The hiring manager is going to completely ignore this because collaboration. Okay,
It's one of those soft skills where you can't really measure it either.
exactly.
Yeah.
I want to see collaboration through their accomplishments, through things that they have accomplished in this section. And we'll get to that in just a moment.
Mhm.
But really, just adding collaboration, leadership, doesn't tell me absolutely anything about this person, right? Anybody in the chat, anybody in the room can write the same things. It makes no distinction. So, oh, sorry, you were going to ask something?
I was. It's about the how the resume was laid out. I know we're going to get into the nuances of each
Mhm.
section, but overall, um, you saw that the education was first, and then the skills, and then relevant experience, and then I think leadership underneath that. So, in terms of how it's formatted, does it make sense for you?
There's no difference as long as it's clean. And here's
Hmm.
why. If I had an open position, which I don't, but if I had an open position and I know that I'm looking for someone with, say, for example, specific degree, specific skills, the first thing that I would do is I would go to the education. And if that person doesn't have those things that I explicitly asked as required, probably I'm just going to skip this resume
Hmm.
because I may have hundreds of others or thousands of others. So that's a easy way for me to filter out. Now, let's pretend that I actually don't care about the education, but I'm looking for experience in software as a service. I would skip the education, even if it's first. I would go directly into the relevant experience and look for that. And if the person doesn't have that, then probably I would just skip the resume. In the case where the person actually has that experience, then actually I would rate, okay, let's imagine for a moment that this is software as a service. I would say, okay, this person has this. Let me look at the experiences. Okay, awesome. Now let's go back to the education. So it really, there's no specific formula or step A, B, and C. It's more about what am I as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, as somebody who's screening resumes looking for, and that's the first thing that we'll do. Right now, this first one, I'm just doing it in order as they wrote it, but really there's no specific order into it. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I see other questions in the chat from Abhishek and oh gosh, Mesbalhul. So one of the questions were, can you not put your coursework and just have the bachelor's in biology, da 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 da? Can you ignore that just from the basis of real estate? That was one
Mhm.
question. And the other question is the recruiter actually reading all the resumes? So I think talking about the ATS system, do you actually read through all of the resumes? Do you actually open them all?
Right. So let's go with the first question. The first
Hmm.
question about the coursework. Yeah, you can absolutely skip that. There's definitely no. If it saves you space by removing it and you can add more accomplishment, that's even better. The recommendation is, I would say for example, you're applying to a job and you're studying this same degree or any other degree, and you know that that job specifically asks for certain type of knowledge in a technology, and you studied that, then add it because it's going to show that that's related directly to the job that I'm applying to. But if there's no relation, if there's nothing that is adding, then remove it because they're not going to care about that. I'll give you just to finish the story there. Technology analysis and forecasting. It's not something that I know anything about it, so I have no idea what this person is learning here. But if I was in this field and I was asking for experience in this, then for sure I would say, okay, it's great that they're studying that, but I just don't know. It doesn't really add anything to me. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yes.
And then the second one about ATS and all of that. So the way that it works is very simple. Think of the ATS as a box or a file cabinet. It's literally a place where all the resumes go in there. And what hiring managers are going to do is look for a search bar experiences, and they're going to look for keywords: product management, leadership, collaboration, stuff like that. And you would think about, well, but Diego, you just told us that we should remove the business skills, but they're actually going to look at those. What's going to happen is if you do keyword stuffing and they find your resume and they see that all you have about collaboration is a keyword, they're going to throw away your resume right away. So if you have collaboration down here, and that's going to catch their interest and see, okay, collaboration. Let me read what this person did around collaboration. So think of the ATS literally as a file cabinet where they search for resumes, and that's how they read it. A person is going to read your resume. The ATS is not going to make any decision.
Agreed. And to clarify, you don't have to put collaboration in that word. ATS is smart enough to know everything that's related to collaboration.
Right.
So collaborated or any synonyms thereof. So you don't have to make sure you add collaboration as one of the things, or leadership as one of the things. You can always say lead a team, manage the team. So all those things are still within the same pile of collaboration.
Exactly.
So don't want to scare people.
And let me go into one of the most important things, because even after 5 seconds, I didn't even have to read the entire first sentence, and I already know it's wrong. So let's go into this part, because this is super critical. The main point of the experience is that you have to show what you accomplished. How are you different from the rest? What do you do that actually made a difference in the company, in the project, in the school work, in the school project, in whatever it is you're going to add it? What's different? Here's a great example of how not to do it. Product management intern, conducting user interviews and research for cross-functional team leads to increase engagement KPIs of new target user base. If you know anything about product management, my question to you is, isn't this what all product managers do, regardless of whether you're an intern or you're a full-time employee? Regardless of the level, meaning entry level versus senior level, all PMs do that, or are supposed to do that. So what makes this person different? In this sentence, absolutely nothing. But I'm sure that they actually accomplished many great things, did a very thoughtful insight that steered the product or the feature, or changed the strategy, or helped to support the vision of the senior PMs. I don't know what they did, but that's what we want to see in the resumes. Other than that, all I know is that this person knows how to do interviews, but any PM who was an intern knows how to do interviews, or at least they should have. I'll do another quick example before any other question, but expanding portfolio by leading 30 plus founder engagements, conducting 100 plus hours of due diligence and strategic deal sourcing for both accelerator and venture arms to evaluate new products and technologies against investment criteria using industry benchmarks. I'm not an expert on being a venture scout, but this also sounds like any venture scout should evaluate new products and technologies against investment criteria using industry benchmarks. And they actually did it with I don't know if this is a large or not number, but this is telling me overall that this is the type of work that a venture scout would do. So when you think of accomplishment and impact, think about, is this a job description? Is this something that any venture scout would do? Is this something that any PM intern would do? If the answer is yes, it's not an accomplishment. And we can talk about accomplishment and impact in a moment, but let me pause there, see if you have any questions.
We have a lot of questions. Maria, Kamal, YJC, Roberto, Jay all have questions.
Love it.
So I'm going to actually plug some questions in. What are your thoughts? So Maria's asking, what are your thoughts about folks pivoting into careers? And let's focus on maybe one question at a time.
Sure. So someone changing careers, what you want to show here is if this person pretend that they don't have product management intern experience, what I want to see is I want to see how they have applied product management skills in other jobs. So they might have accomplished 50 things in their previous job. But if those things are really not related to product management, then are not that relevant for the job or for the person that I'm looking for to fulfill the job. And again, I'm not looking for a person, but if I were, those are the kind of things that I would do. And so here's another super quick example just to finish that, and hopefully to move a little bit more with the resume. But synthesize 40 plus primary and secondary research resources, including templates, interviews, VC students, government, representatives in Berlin startup ecosystem, examine industry relationships. This is a great one because when it comes to your question, Maria, not necessarily to an accomplishment and impact, but this is a great example because this is telling me that this person has done user research, market analysis. They have been able to synthesize all of that. They have talked to many different types of customers, so that customer engagement. So this is a great example of a transferable skill into product management. I would still change it a little bit to make it an accomplishment plus impact, but it's a great example of that.
Lovely. There are other questions around. So, Kamal, I see your question on ATS. Let's tackle that at the end. One of the questions from ooh YJCJ Mbrew is if you're in school, let's say you don't have access to these accomplishments, how do you go about getting those impacts into your resume?
Starting by framing the question in a different way. You don't have to have a work related experience in an industry to have accomplishment or have an impact. I was once mentoring a student, and they said, "Hey, I don't know what to add for an accomplishment and the impact. All I'm doing is I'm running surveys."
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, hold on. What do you mean, like, you're just running surveys? And they explained to me the whole process. And they were like, well, I need to go and design the survey with the professor. So I need to understand what they want to ask. Then I have to compile all of that into a survey that makes sense. Then I need to run the survey through my classmates. And sometimes that's not enough. So then I need to go and interview and talk to a few of my classmates, maybe some other professors. Then my teacher asked me to write a report. And after that, when I send it over, we iterate on that same survey. So I need to do it again. But that's all I do. And I was like, that's fantastic because there's a lot of accomplishments there. When you say you are just running surveys with your classmates, that's making this accomplishment that is this big into this big. You have to think about, you're talking to customers, you're talking to users, you're iterating, you're shaping something because the survey is part of a major project. So how is your analysis of the data of all the surveys plus all the interviews, how is that affecting, in product management terms, the roadmap of the project? Right? Because you're shaping it. So just because you're a student doesn't mean that you're not accomplishing something. It just means that you need to look harder or the problem from a different perspective. But you are accomplishing something. And by the way, just to finish that on the accomplishments, think about there's the typical either verb plus accomplishment plus impact, or there's the XYZ formula from a Google article from many years ago, accomplish X by doing Y.
Yep. Love it. Conscious of time, what are your final thoughts? One last thought on this resume that we have in front of us.
Yeah. So last thing here that I would say is, and again, I just saw it for 10 seconds. So actually, I would do it like a recruiter. Give me 10 seconds, and I'll share with you my final thoughts on this.
Thank you guys for the questions. Hopefully, Diego did answer your questions as he's silently reviewing them. I see that folks have a lot of really good questions. So what we might do is we either might set up a clubhouse. I always call it coffee house, clubhouse, or we'll publish a Medium article to answer some of these questions that are similar in topic.
All right. So the final decision on this is a very hypothetical scenario. I don't have a job opening, so please don't message me about it. But if I were looking for a PM at this level, which I am based on the intern and based on the dates, I'm guessing it's a recent grad. This is not a resume that meets the bar, and here's why. this person has a lot of experience in doing surveys and doing a lot of individual contributor work, something that they can go do and execute, get requirements, analyze the data, and put it together. But I don't see anything about working with others. If you see, there's a lot of collaboration here, but I don't see anything about working with engineers, working with others, putting together a group, leading anyone. There's a lot of formulated specific recommendations, synthesized, increased chapter, raised, build, but there's not much about others. So to me, this is what this resume is missing to get to that bar and say this person has all the transferable skills from what they're doing into product management.
Gotcha. I do have a question on that, but maybe in the other two resumes, we might get to what is a good resume. So let's move on to the second resume.
All right, moving on to the second resume. So let's do it quicker this time and let's spend more time on the experience than on the other sections. But again, once again, the first thing that we notice is just look, okay, it's pretty easy to read. That's awesome. It's one page. That's great. I don't need to, I don't need to spend more time on it than I would do with others because again, less than 10 years of experience. Only looking for one page of a resume. So let's see, experience. This person started as a data analyst, right? So in my mind, even though I'm not an expert on data analyst, I kind of imagine what they're trying to do. Let's see, cluster end user based on background information to identify users with similar backgrounds and most frequently purchased products for each cluster. Once again, this is something that I imagine every data analyst would do. When I say every, take it with a grain of salt. It means that the majority would do that. Or if I were to put a job posting, I would probably add this as one of the knowledge on doing cluster analysis, right? So it's more of a job description rather than an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. Implemented an algorithm, a description of algorithms, achieving 12% of accuracy. If I were hiring for or looking for a person in the ML world, then this is a great point to see, okay, this is great, but it's missing a few things. So it's achieving 12% of accuracy against what? What is the baseline? But the good thing about this is that they have technical experience. They know what they're talking about. It's just missing a little bit more. This is the impact. It's just hard to measure against what. Created a UI prototype in Figma to showcase a product recommendation engine, winning the best overall capstone. Perfect. Like this is a great. They know about design. They know Figma is a product for designers. So this is great. That gives me a little bit more idea of what they do. Leverage knowledge, Python or Tableau, unless I'm looking for these skills. Good to have, but not really something that moves
I think
the
I
needle.
would rather see this leverage somewhere in the description rather than
Yeah.
as its own separate section. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. It's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it, but yeah, if you put it in the it's going to save you space if you put it in the skills as one line versus having 1, 2, 3 separate lines. Mm-hmm. Consultant. I was a consultant, so I know what consultants do. Provided consultancy to local nonprofits on developing marketing strategies and implementing fundraising strategies. This is almost great because it tells me their accomplishment was to develop market strategies and implement fundraising strategies. But then what? Like, what did they accomplish? Did they actually made some of these local nonprofits become profitable? Become funded, have the money? Like, were they able to get to that point? Or was it really they just talked with them and that's it and nothing happened? So it's missing the outcome of those strategies. Received the Innovation Award for Excellence and Creativity. I would have loved to see a project here, right? Because I don't know what this award means. And that's a very important point. Many companies have internal awards, internal recognitions. I have no idea what they are. So unless you tell me more about it, this tells me nothing except that you're a hardworking person that apparently has excellent standards and creativity, but I have no idea what that means. And then the last one, product planning specialist, increase revenue by 100% through analyzing. This is a perfect example of accomplishment and impact. Increase the revenue by an amount. And I probably know what you're thinking, but Diego, what if I don't know the amount? What if I don't know this? What if I don't know that? Try to compare to something. If you know that your project, what you did, helped to reduce time, helped to increase sales, helped to reduce friction, you can use words like doubled, tripled, slight increase, or halved the time of development or whatever it is. So you can use those kind of things instead of specific number.
Hmm.
But anyway, let's go back to this. Increase total revenue by 150% through analyzing marketing and sales data. Awesome point for product management to provide small business sellers with strategic insights and data-driven recommendations. Perfect. So this is an excellent point. Run A/B tests and recommended changes leading to 1%. Another great way to showcase an accomplishment and an impact. Raise 145K for the crowdfunding project. Initiated marketing campaigns and partner with design and marketing teams. This is another great point for product management, right? It talks about team working. It talks about communication, and they don't have the word communication, but just by knowing that they have to work with external agencies, that speaks that you have to talk to other firms, other groups, other companies, and that has to work in order to achieve this goal of 145K. Build dashboard in Tableau to present weekly sales and marketing performance to senior managers. This is more on the side of a job description, right? It really
Yeah.
doesn't tell me much about it. It's just that you build, but what do you accomplish with this? And the last one is also great. Optimize shipping time by 50%. So awesome. Um, Other than that, the only other thing that I would add here is at this point, if I like this resume, and as of now, I would say I think this for once again an entry level PM role. I think this is a great resume because I see a little bit more, especially on this point. I see a little bit more of what this person did, what they accomplished, what was their impact, how did they differentiate from any other product planning specialist.
Hmm.
The next thing that I would do if I'm interested, which I am, then I would look at, okay, maybe I'm looking for somebody with a specific type of education, meaning finance or strategy or computer science or whatever it is. If I am, I would then go and look into more details like this. Um, Analytic projects. This is great, probably for an analytics role. For product management, I really don't care too much about this. They could be great conversation topics in the interview,
Hmm.
like, oh, hey, I saw you did a flight delay prediction, tell me more about it, but more because I'm curious, more than thinking, oh, this is super applicable to product management. But let me pause there because I went a little bit faster with this. I wanted to go end to end on
Yeah.
one. But yeah, any questions?
Folks do have a lot of questions. Oh my gosh. So we have probably around 8 questions that came from this resume. I'm gonna randomly select one of them. So, ooh, okay. Let's do. Okay. M. Ru Rao is asking, how important and relevant are certifications in a resume?
It depends. It depends on the following. Let's forget for a moment about product management. There are certifications for certain types of roles that are very important, or at least make help with being a good differentiator factor in the world of project and program management. Certifications like a PMP certifications or project management certification are very important. And so you certainly want to do those because I'm sure that a lot of candidates for project and program management are going to have them. So you want to compete with those types of candidates. There are, for example, for product owners in the Agile world, then you want to have a Scrum Master certification, right? You want to have these Agile certifications. In the product management world, none of them. You don't need any certification. If you do them because you want to learn more, that's awesome. But don't do them thinking that it's going to be easier to break into product management. You don't need any kind of certification to break into product management.
Ooh, love that response. I feel like that's a follow on to the next thing is how do you break in? But I think you actually have a lot of really good videos. I don't want to spend that much time talking about how to break in because he actually has really good content in his YouTube channel. Literally the first one of the first videos is how to crack the PM process. So I'm not going to talk through that. How about let's go, I guess, last thoughts on this resume.
Yeah. So last thoughts on this one is I would have loved to see a little bit more on the accomplishments over here. I would have loved to see, sorry, a lot of more of the impact. I would have loved to see a little bit more collaboration on the recent projects, especially as a data analyst. It's very clear that this person worked a lot on these algorithms, but then what happened afterwards, right? I would have loved to see those collaborations with engineers, with other data scientists, or whoever was in the team. But like I said, I think this meets the bar to me for a PM role. Once again, this is not a PM role at Microsoft. This is a generic PM role. But to me, this meets the bar, or at least it's good enough to start thinking about it. That being said, don't take it. Don't take if you're the person from this resume, don't just simply take it and then apply. There are plenty of other things that you can do, but definitely work more on showing those impact, showing that there's more skills that you can highlight. Talk more about leading teams, working cross functionally. But it's a good resume, I would say.
Tell me about the impacts, and this isn't a question that I pulled from the chat, but tell me about why collaboration is so important in a product manager role from the business perspective. If let's reframe it, if a product manager were not collaborative, so in the resume it doesn't show collaboration, doesn't show working with teams, leading teams, managing, presenting to senior stakeholders, what would that candidate do in a real PM role?
If they didn't have the communications,
Yes.
you said communication, right?
Yep. Collaboration, communication.
Collaboration.
Yep.
Okay. If you're a PM and don't know how to collaborate, then you're not going to be able to do your job at all. Because once again, it's not about having highlighted in the resume the word collaboration. It's more about showing through those accomplishments that you've collaborated cross functionally with other groups, not only engineering, because many of us have not worked with engineers before, and that's okay. But it's collaboration with others. It would be great to see those things in the resume. If a PM doesn't have collaboration, it's impossible to work because our day to day depends 99% on collaboration. The extra 1% is putting those ideas or the resolution of those collaboration or meetings or get togethers or whatever into a PowerPoint, into an Excel file, into whatever it is. But yeah, you can't survive without collaboration.
Gotcha. And one of the things that you do, Diego, is drive decisions too.
Yep,
And that's very
absolutely.
critical when there's so much data around, you're working with, there's so many parallel paths that are going on, and you essentially are the middle ground for, it's kind of the middle ground for all of the parallel paths that are happening. And you have to kind of keep your team together to meet the overall business objectives or product objectives. So that's really
Yeah,
important.
yeah, absolutely. And let me just make one more clarification
Yeah.
on these resumes that I'm reviewing. Right now, what I'm doing is a very, very simple, based on what I'm looking at. Do I think this is a good enough resume to think about breaking into product management? The reality is that what you have to do is think beyond your resume. Think about side projects. Think about, excuse me, building products. Think about networking. The resume is just one small step, but very important in the process. So when I say yes, this is a good resume, I'm thinking about an entry level resume, and I'm thinking that this person is going to take the resume and then build products, build side projects, network, and go beyond that. Not just apply. If you just apply with a resume like this, the chances are really, really, really low. Not because the resume is wrong, but simply more because you need to do much more than just your resume to break into product management.
Awesome. On that note, let's move on to the third resume and talk through the entire process which candidates should be looking to.
All right. So this is a
Ooh.
very good example. Hopefully, as I'm scrolling and you can see, it starts to, just from the first impression compared to this, it's really hard to read, right? Hopefully, all of you can agree with me. And again, I mean, when I say hard to read, yes, if I spend enough time reading about it, sure, I can read every single letter. But remember that recruiters, hiring managers, they don't have 10 minutes on your resume. This is what I mean by the format. Sometimes a bad format doesn't necessarily mean full of colors. Sometimes a bad format can be just the way that the font is selected, right? It's really hard for me to at a very easy. If I were moving, hopefully you can see the mouse moving, and if I were moving it like this to scan the resume, it's gonna be really hard. So I'm gonna spend actually more time on this one versus, just to compare, if I were doing something like this. It's very easy. It's much more easier to read. So anyway, let's go. This is another great example. So this person has a summary. Here's the thing with summaries. If your summary is going to be relevant to and tailored to the position that you're applying to, that's awesome. Do it. If you're going to add a summary for the sake of adding a summary, remove it. It's not adding anything and just taking space from your resume. If you are writing more than 4 lines, then it's not a summary. It's a paragraph. So make sure that your summary, if you want to add it, which is not necessarily, it's very tailored, very concise to and to the point, to the job that you're applying to. But let's take a look at this. 7+ years of experience in leading and delivering complex multidisciplinary projects from the ground up. Motivated product leader with a track record of leveraging data to drive customer and business impact and build scalable, highly available, and fault-tolerant products. Energized by delivering seamless, exceptional customer experience. Without reading anything else on this resume, all I know is that they're a product leader with 7 years of experience. That's it. Because I don't know if they have worked in cloud, in apps, in ML, I have no idea what they have accomplished. So if I were looking to, if this were my resume and I want to apply to a job, I would look at what they're asking for. I would see if I have it in my experience, and then add it to my summary. Otherwise, the summary doesn't tell me anything.
Gotcha. So rule of thumb, you might want to, if you have a template that you just throw into black boxes, you would recommend don't add the summary. If you have a
Yeah,
gotcha.
exactly. The summary is definitely not needed. The summary is it's an optional thing. If you want to add it, it has to be tailored. Otherwise, it doesn't add much.
Awesome.
This is very interesting because, again, we're thinking from the PM perspective. This takes a ton of space, right? And it's marked as a very high, very important piece in the resume. But for a PM, and once again, consider that we don't know if this person is applying for a PM role, but from the PM perspective, programming takes a big space in the resume. I don't need to know that this person knows all of this, because if I were hiring a PM, I'm not hiring them to make code. I'm hiring them to work with engineers, not to do the code. So it doesn't hurt, but at the same time, probably a lot of the reasons why the text here looks very cramped, looks very condensed into a small space is because of the amount of space that this section is taking. My recommendation is add all of this very little at the end, something similar like this. If I'm interested in the technical knowledge, I would go to that section and then I would just look at it.
Great.
All right. And so moving on, I see, so this person has a technical PM role, right? So what I'm going to focus on is looking at those accomplishments and impact, right? Because this person is already a PM. So what I see here, leverage business data analytics acumen, lead a cross-functional team of product owners, scientists, and engineers, align with business. My question to the chat is, do you guys think this is an accomplishment, or is it more of a job description? What do you think PMs do in their everyday? So let's see if people in the chat want to participate in this. Let's go to the next one. Align deliverable with CVS North Star metric, procured support and funding for roadmap investments to prioritize efforts and manage resource allocations aligned with budget. Same thing. What do you think about this one? Do you think this is what a PM should do, or is this something unique, extraordinary to this person? Same thing for the next one. Advocate for the user by analyzing the top reported technical quality issues and communicating the potential impact of product changes to internal stakeholders. Do you guys think this is something a PM would do in their everyday? I'm going to give you the answer to this third one. Yes, absolutely. This is what we should do. So if you see, it's really easy to fall into the job description thinking that is an accomplishment. And I see some people in the chat already posting more of a job description by Roberto, Kamal, and Ru. So you're absolutely right. It's a job description. Let's see. Once again, it's hard to scan for me. So the format is definitely not something I recommend. Here's something that it kind of looks like an impact. Let's look at it, and then I'll pause for other questions. But deliver a chatbot to instantly answer FAQs, accounted in decreased support tickets and reduced turnaround time by 70%, resulting in 350K savings on resources. This is a good example of an accomplishment and impact. This is what I would expect to see in a PM resume. right?
Hmm.
Not necessarily the top three that we have in here. But let me pause there, see if there's any other questions.
There are a lot of questions, mind you. What we'll do is I think we should write something up to answer some of those hot topic questions. But really quick, something I did notice was this person has been in the role for a year, and there are a lot of different ideas being added on there. So, really quickly, what are your initial thoughts on having 9 to 10 bullet points for that role? Is that okay, or do you feel like it can be truncated?
There's nothing wrong with adding as many bullet points as you want, as long as they are accomplishment and impact.
Hmm.
Here's another example. In fact, this is my wild guess, and I haven't read all of them, but this is my wild guess of what's happening here. There are two accomplishment and impact. Delivering 3 new features, reduce calls, improve customer satisfaction, right? We read the chatbot. Without
Yeah.
having to read the rest, because I have not, but I just skimmed through it, the rest are job descriptions. And that's where it goes wrong. So my guess is that this person has the 2 lines that are impact, and then they just put a ton of other information, but it's a job description.
Hmm.
To me, being 1 year into the role, probably these are the 2 bullet points that the resume should have. Maybe there's a third one. Maybe there's something else about accomplishment, but at least these are the only 2 that are relevant to everything else. Once again, I haven't read in detail all the others, but that's just a very simple, 10-second look. To me, these are the 2 relevant ones.
Agreed, agreed. And I think that's so when I see the job description, so I see what I look for first personally is how long they've been in that role and what they're going to say about that role. If you're going to do 9 bullet points, chances are you might not be critical enough in terms of what you're putting down. So be mindful of the bullets that you add onto your resume. Sorry, moving down to the latter experiences.
Yeah, so here we can see, and again, it's hard to skim through it because of the font, but here, by the way, one tip that you could do if your resume is similar to this, meaning the font and you're detecting that it's
Yeah.
not as easy, at least you can bold, highlight, change the color of the numbers, the things that you want to transmit so that it can be very easily identifiable. But here, it's easy to see that in their data product owner role, there was an amount of product initiatives delivered. That's great. Feature enhancements, product growth. This is awesome. Here's another very important point. Very very important point that I would not expect in the resume of somebody with, maybe this is not, yeah, I was going to say, oh sorry, yeah, from 2012 this person has been working,
Mm.
and this is a mistake in the resume, right? It has a semicolon instead of a dot or instead of nothing. Be careful with those things. Some recruiters, some hiring managers are very picky about those, but also it shows that you have the attention to details. So be careful with those kind of things, right? You don't want this to, especially now that I see it, I cannot stop seeing it. So it's really hard to unsee it, the mistake in the resume.
Hmm.
Some companies will be very harsh about those. Other than that, honestly, they have everything that would be expected of the role of PM. So if I were to look all the way up to this role, ignoring the one at the top, I would say, yeah, this person, has a good amount of experiences and knowledge to become a PM. Once again, not just with the resume, there's plenty of other work, but it looks like a good resume overall.
Gotcha. So the final verdict of this resume, it seems that you're gravitate. Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would this resume be a good resume to submit for a PM position?
Yes, once again, thinking that is not just about the resume, and building side projects is another best way to try to get into product management. But just to clarify the why the decision or why the yes is, as I look into this, I see product initiatives delivered, feature enhancements. I see
Hmm.
translation of product goals into user stories. I see some technical expertise. That's great. Enabling senior executives, so that's about communication, leadership. That's awesome. analyzing data, and again, I'm just skimming through it. Power BI analytical support, once again, being data driven. So I see many skills for product management. The resume is not enough, but if you want to apply with a resume like this, it's okay. I would still change the font. I would still
Yeah.
change, or at least highlight some of the numbers. But yeah,
Okay. So throughout the whole session, it seems that you've been talking about resumes are not enough. So tell me about what candidates should be doing to make themselves known, or I guess the whole point of a resume is literally to get to talk to you, get to talk to the hiring manager. So what are the other ways you can you're able to network into the position, into your desired position?
yeah. Let me make an example of that. Imagine that this person, their latest job is senior data product owner. Then for this one is data analyst. For this one is venture scout.
Hmm.
Would you hire this person in marketing or in finance? Probably not really, right? It sounds like a weird question. Like, why would I make such a jump? But here's the reality: is that we wrongly believe that breaking into product management, it's a matter of you show here, led without authority or working cross functionally, small things like that, and boom, you're done. But it's not as simple as that. What you want to show here in your resume, yes, for sure, are those transferable skills. But at the same time, what you want to show is that you've done the work. You've done the job of a product manager. Otherwise, how would I, as a hiring manager or a hypothetical hiring manager, how would I know that you can be a product manager? So, what is the way to show that is not through your resume. It's actually by building projects, building products. I'll talk about at least two different ways to get into this PM role. One of them is side projects or products. Build something. That's what product managers. That's what we do. And so go out, figure out, hey, what's a problem in my neighborhood, in my day-to-day life, in my own company, at school, with my friends. Find a product, or sorry, find a problem, and then treat that problem like a product manager would. Talk to users, survey, do data analysis, then start building on it. Hey, I don't know how to code. Well, good news. There's a ton of no code, applications out there that can help you. But take it one step further, because PM is about collaboration. I'm sure you're friends with engineers, and I'm sure you can, in exchange for pizza and beers or something, you can help, as their help to create a product. And that's also going in your resume and your experiences that you're working cross-functionally. Launch the product, iterate on it, get feedback. And when you talk with hiring managers, you're going to talk about your product. You're going to talk about your project. You're going to talk about how you built it, not just that you did the project. The least important thing about side projects is how it looks. The most important thing is about the process and the journey that you went from ideation, understanding the problem, all the way to launching the product. That's why resumes, it's a starting point, but it's not enough. Don't get me wrong. Some people actually do that. They break into PM just with the resume. But think about how many places you've applied to, or your friends, or people that you know, and how many return calls they've gotten for product management. Probably very few, all the way to none. And if you want to increase your chances, that's one way. And then the other, just to mention super quick, is internal transfers. So you can join a company, or if you're at your own company, join a company in a role that you know you can do well, you can excel at, and then network and shadow PMs. Offer your help. Offer them to say, hey, I'm interested in PM, and I'm really excited about the product. Is there something that I can help you with? Can I, sit down in a customer call and take notes for you? Can I sit down in your team's room and take notes? And then after that, once you master that skill, then do user stories. Offer to help them review PRDs, product requirement documents, or anything like that. In time, you'll build the trust, but you also build enough stories to say, hey, I've done my job, plus partially I've done the PM job. And sorry, one last thing that I would say as a third option is volunteer. Go to places like angel.co or Product Hunt. Find a startup that you're excited about, then go and find them on LinkedIn and offer your help. If anything that these companies need is help, and if you offer to volunteer as a PM, some of them will say no, but many others could say yes, because for them, it's you're helping them, and for you, you're getting the experience, and you're going to add that to your resume. So if you want to break into product management, show that you can be a product manager, not just add keywords to your resume. But let me pause there.
Oh, any questions from the chat? That was a lot of information, but I really resonate. Oh, can you please mention the website for volunteering again?
Yeah, so let me clarify that. So I'm typing it in the chat. So angel.co and product hunt,
Yeah.
prod, product hunt. So these two, and just search for them online. So it's not that they are volunteering, and they might have an option. I don't know. But what you're gonna do is gonna find a startup that you're interested in,
Hmm.
and then go on LinkedIn and search for that same company and find people that work there or their founders and offer to talk with them and show, have a coffee chat and show them how you can help them by being a PM on their team, and right in exchange you'll get the experience.
Yeah. On that plug, guys, just because you've mentioned it, Diego, we're actually looking for folks who can help us at Disclosed. We are, like Diego mentioned, a startup. We've been operating for 4 months now, and we do a lot of these sessions. But now, one of the challenges with Disclose is how can we make it more impactful for users? So that's something that we're actively looking for. We're actively doing interviews right now. So if folks do want to apply for that, you want to get that experience, just let me know. You can DM me on LinkedIn, and I can send you that link. Otherwise, those two links are really good that Diego did mention. If this doesn't pan out for you, but really great insights, specifically around how you can take current experiences, pivot them into something that's more relatable to product managers. What I've heard is product managers are mini CEOs of their product. What do you feel about that? How I guess how true is that statement?
Not at all. It's one of the biggest misconceptions,
Hmm.
and here's why. Probably many years ago, and I forgot the author of that phrase, but probably many years ago, yes, that was true. Today, it's not, because when you think of a CEO, you think of the entire company, under the CEO. So if the CEO says, "Hey, we're going that way," everybody goes that way. As a PM, you don't have that power. You don't. Well, let me change that. You don't have the authority when you start.
Hmm.
You have to convince your team. You have to show them that they can trust you in your decisions, so that when the time comes and you say, "Hey, let's go there," they truly believe in you enough to go there,
Yep.
right? But you have nobody reporting to you. You have to influence everyone. That's the famous influence without authority, right? You use data to convince them. You have to use empathy, not only with customers, but with your team as well. Understand them, figure out their motivations and how to convince them, and then you lead them somewhere. That's the biggest difference between the CEO part and PM.
Yeah. To caveat off of that, so product, I agree with you. As a founder, or as a CEO, you're really looking for resources. You're really looking at developing talent. You're, looking
Mm-hmm.
into different business strategies, monetization strategies for the overall brand. So that's kind of the caveat. You're right. PMs are more related on how can I, to your point, how can I get this into fruition, into execution, but leading with the team around you, and you don't have the authority as a CEO might have. But really,
Exactly.
really great. By the way, we are 10 minutes over, guys. Diego, if you can stop sharing your screen so folks can see your lovely face and everything around you. Um, I do have one last question for you. And on behalf of the chat, what are the top three reasons you would reject? So, speaking on Microsoft,
Mhm.
what are the top three reasons you would reject a candidate through the interview process?
Sure. I'm just going to change that because
Sure.
I can't speak on behalf of Microsoft, right? So I'll speak of from my experience helping many others break into product management with their resumes. The top three mistakes that I see and the reason why they don't get calls. Number one, is format. And I know before I said, well, may not be that important, but a lot of people have a ton of graphics and colors and pictures, and they focus way too much on that and way too little on the rest. So make sure that, hopefully, as you saw in this presentation, make sure that your resume is very easy to read, very easy to scan. Make the recruiter and the hiring manager's life easier. You want them to spend enough time in your resume. The second thing is, make sure that your resume is tailored to the job that you're applying to. Some people, what they do is, or the mistake, or the reason why they get rejected, is they take a collection of all their stories, paste it in the resume, and then apply, and then hoping that one or two of the things will match the ATS keywords, and then boom, done. And that's not how it works. If you want to apply for a PM role or marketing or finance or whatever it is, make sure that you read the job description and that you look at your own skills and match them. And the number one reason people get rejected, hopefully, as you saw in why I was insisting so much on this, is the accomplishments and impact versus job description. The majority of the resumes that I've seen are job descriptions, not accomplishment. And that's one of the key reasons, because companies are not interested to know what you were hired to do. They're interested to know what you accomplished in your role in the company that you were hired. So focus on those three things. If anything, those are the top three takeaways. Focus on the format, focus on tailoring your resume, and then focus on your keyword plus impact. Let me just make a big parenthesis there. I didn't talk about tailoring in this video, or as I was going through the resumes, simply because I don't have a job description and I wasn't sure what they were applying to. But that would be one of the ways for me to filter out and say, okay, I'm looking for this experience, and this person doesn't have it, boom, let's go to the next one, right? It would be easier. But because I don't have a job description, I saw it as a general PM position, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah, and also you were looking at it from a perspective of, should you apply to a general
Hmm.
PM role into a FANG company? Each company is very different. So
Yes.
I appreciate, Diego, you've given a lot of insights through the session. For folks who are currently watching still, if you post your favorite quote from today's session, from Diego, myself, or anything you've heard in the chat, post it on LinkedIn. Just be sure to tag Diego, myself, and Disclosed. What we'll do is we'll randomly select one person to have an informal coffee chat amongst the both of us, and we can either use it to talk about career guidance, mock interviews, resume screening, whatever you want to do with those 30 minutes, up to you. So it's going to be a really fun time. For those who do post, we're going to engage with you either way offline and anyways, but it's just one random person will be selected to that informal chat with us. Really quickly, I see a lot of questions and I do want to answer all the questions, and we're going to do this offline. So Diego and I will get together after this call and figure out how best to answer these questions. We'll tell you how we're going to do it in the actual LinkedIn posting. So we'll tell you whether we're going to do another YouTube series or a video or a Medium article. We'll let you guys know. So be sure to follow us on the actual the LinkedIn event. Great. Any last words for our audience today, Diego?
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, Michelle. It's been a pleasure to be with all of you guys. Thank you so much for all the questions, all the love in the chat. I love doing these things. If you need more resources on resume, product management, all that stuff, check out my channel. I have whatever you're looking for, probably it's there. And if not, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat.
Yeah. And for folks who don't have Diego's channel, it is actually in the description. So go to the actual YouTube live session, click on the description below, and that you'll navigate straight to Diego's channel. Great. Thank you guys for joining. And thank you so much, Diego, for coming on online, and we'll chat with you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Diego.